Esoteric Meme Breakdown Episode 51, I Won't Breastfeed. This image of a Brazilian black Mangalarga Marchador horse was taken by photographer Julio Oliveira. The Mangalarga Marchador is the national horse of Brazil. This breed is based on the Portuguese Lusitano and Barb horse breeds. They're known for their smooth, attractive gait, making them comfortable for riding. The Marchador has two ambling gaits, the Marcha Batida and the Marcha Picada. These ambling gaits are slower than a canter but faster than a walk. Some people are obsessed with this type of gait. In fact, people used to tie horses of other breeds, legs together, to force an ambling gait. This caption is likely referencing the horse's Karen-esque haircut and trim demeanor, and a controversial TikTok where a mother states she didn't breastfeed because, quote, I don't want my boobs to sag or look any different than they did before I got pregnant. This caused quite a stir, as breastfeeding doesn't directly cause sagging, but rather speedy weight gain during a pregnancy can. Myriad physiological changes happen during a pregnancy that can take months to return to preconception stasis. Oxygen and nutrient demands skyrocket during pregnancy, and the immune system changes so the body doesn't reject the fetus. Postpartum hemorrhage, depression, bladder issues, and more can occur to permanently alter physiology. Luckily and finally, more and more attention is being placed on the postpartum recovery period to minimize adverse effects on the mother, as carrying a child is such a physically demanding task. With all that said, I think this horse would be a total DILF. The D stands for damn, which is a horse that has given birth, though I think this particular horse would be a sylph. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know what meme you'd like me to cover next. Esoteric Meme Breakdown Episode 52. She's of the older variety. She's blonde. She's a screamer. She says TG when you take off her neck. This certified boomer classic isn't talking about a woman, but a specific type of vintage blonde finish overwound bridge pickup equipped electric guitar crafted by a Fender employee who has since gained a cult of appreciation for the instruments he crafted during his tenure. Indeed, many old men go crazy for these pre-CNC machine vintage instruments, especially in their classic colorways. In the 1950s, guitar pickups, magnets with a bunch of wire wrapped around them, were wrapped by hand and were sometimes over-wrapped, which leads to a stronger signal going into the amp, causing the guitar to quote-unquote scream. To 1950s guitar collectors, if Leo Fender is the father, Tadeo Gomez, born 1902, is the Holy Spirit. His neck carves, that is, the shape of the guitar neck that players interact with, are frequently copied. His hand-finished necks are now 3D scanned and reproduced using CNC machines and are forever part of music history. Tadeo's parents died when he was 12, and a year or so later he walked over 1,000 miles from his hometown of La Cueva, Mexico to Jerome, Arizona to meet up with his older siblings to work in a silver mine. He eventually made it out of the mine, one of his brothers died there, and he settled in La Abra near Fullerton, California, where Leo Fender was based. He worked at Fender, shaping necks, and developed his own style that players loved. By 1957, having worked around 7 years with Leo, Tadeo left after a new supervisor said he wasn't meeting standards, even though by that point he was a foreman with people working under him. Then, he helped build Disneyland. After that, he made it back to Fender, now in his 60s, as a maintenance person. His wife operated a very popular store that sold snow cones that he helped at until she could no longer work. She may have made more money than he did during that time. While instruments of this era fetch a price that only Vince McMahon can afford anyway, the TG signature adds an almost immaterial amount of value, as collectors are much less inclined to sell an instrument steeped in such Tadeo mythos. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know what meme you'd like me to cover next. Esoteric Meme Breakdown Episode 53, if Calabi-Yau manifold had WhatsApp. Calabi-Yau is a type of complex manifold that is relevant to research done in string theory. A manifold is an object that you can make a map out of, like how you would rip a map pages out of an atlas and reconstruct a small-scale Earth. There can be manifolds in dimensions beyond just our common 2, 3, and 4. This manifold slice is 6-dimensional. There isn't a great way of visualizing objects with more than 4 dimensions. A hyperkähler manifold is a type of hypercomplex Calabi-Yau manifold. This manifold is, quote, endowed with 3 integrable, almost complex structures I, J, K. I don't want to speculate into this Calabi-Yau manifold's personal life, but the hyperkähler manifold may be out of its league and might be a hot mess anyway. Within SU Bourdism theory, you can use Calabi-Yau manifolds, but perhaps the SU Bourdism ring doesn't realize this, as it could be busy corresponding to multiplicative cohomology theory homomorphisms of core-Bourdism cohomology theories. There can be an infinite number of Calabi-Yau manifolds, and this makes the well Peterson measure angry. I couldn't figure out why the metric would be mad about this. Someone let me know in the comments. Spinors are elements of complex vector space. In the 1920s, they were used to figure out the intrinsic angular momentum of the electron. In string theory, a heterotic string is a hybrid of a superstring and a bosonic string. There's a page on NLab about heterotic string theory on Calabi-Yau manifolds, but I can only assume this was put in here because of its thirsty-sounding name. Ed Witten is a heavy hitter in string theory and topological quantum field theory, of which these WhatsApp contacts relate. String theory is seen by some as a candidate for a theory of everything, that is, a theory that can tie gravity and particle physics together. To summarize, Calabi-Yau manifold is a class of manifolds, not a single specific manifold, and thus could not have a WhatsApp. But there could exist a group chat of infinite Calabi-Yau manifolds talking among themselves. I'd be interested in seeing those messages. Give me a follow so you don't miss part 2 with a full 4,500 hour long video explaining this meme in the depth it deserves, once I remember if you're supposed to do subtraction or division first. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know what meme you'd like me to cover next. Esoteric Meme Breakdown Episode 54, Kubrick Overrated, Properly Rated, Underrated. Obviously, these images are not from movies directed by legendary director Stanley Kubrick, but are stills of Matt Johnson's character, Matt Johnson, from the Canadian web and television mockumentary series Nirvana the Band the Show. After the acclaimed web series, the show got 2 television seasons, also acclaimed, on the Viceland TV network. But Viceland shut down and only recently has re-emerged in Canada and the US in different various forms, leaving the Nirvana the Band the Show TV series in a state of limbo, although Nirvana the Band the Show the movie is on its way to the public thanks to the Canadian government. The show blends reality with fiction and is often shot in public where the characters engage with real people. For example, they've filmed a heist scene inside a museum without telling staff or patrons, frequently filmed on public sidewalks, and were spotted filming last year in the background of news footage from Drake's mansion after the security guard shooting incident. The show frequently references popular culture, although here, only the top right image is actually a direct reference to a Kubrick film. Within the show, the Dr. Strangelove still is actually a reference to Samuel L. Jackson's character in Jurassic Park. The top left is a still from Update Day, perhaps the show's most famous skit, praising the Nintendo Wii Shop channel. I will refrain from commenting on the Kubrick ranking, but will mention that Stanley Kubrick has 7 other big movies that are not included on this chart. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to refrain. I agree, The Shining and A Clockwork Orange are overrated. They are. And the decision to not include 2001: A Space Odyssey in the properly rated category is also wild to me. And don't at me in the comments about the TV show not being esoteric. The only way to watch it right now for most non-Canadians is in low quality on archive.org, where you go to look at scans of DVD covers of foreign movies. The show's got a dedicated cult following, but is nowhere near mainstream TV shows in terms of recognition. Heck, more people know about Tally Hall's internet show than this. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know what meme you'd like me to cover next. Esoteric Meme Breakdown Episode 55, The Only Law I Respect is 49 CFR 222.21 and Pub L 85 through 839. CFR stands for Code of Federal Regulations. Title 49 is in regard to transportation, and Chapter 2, that is parts 200 through 299, involve the Federal Railroad Administration. Part 222, Subpart 21, answers the question to its title, when must a locomotive horn be used? The answer, generally speaking, is that the lead car must sound every time it approaches a public highway rail grade crossing with either 2 long blasts or 1 short blast and 1 long blast. There are, of course, nuances. A highway rail grade crossing is an intersection where the road and tracks are at the same level. There are exceptions to this rule expanded upon in Subpart C, 222.31 through 59. You may have seen signs near tracks that say quiet zone. This could mean that, as long as the requirements for being a quiet zone are met, the train doesn't need to sound its horn. But we don't care about that. We think the train should always sound its horn. Public Law 85 through 839 is also known as the Onion Futures Act. This is an iconic law that was enacted in response to 2 guys that bought 30 million pounds of onions, cornering the onion market and futures market, making a ton of money. Essentially, they bought a huge amount of onions, then made it seem like they were buying even more, tanking the onion price into near negative territory, all while having short positions open on the onion futures market. This caused farmers to go bankrupt and caused the public to wonder, should this really be allowed? They decided the answer was no. In a perfect world, the futures market exists to soften the blows for farmers during bad years, but some people also use it to gamble. Studies about onion price volatility following the Onion Futures Act didn't result result in satisfying answers as to whether futures hurt or helped onion price volatility. Either way, Squidward doesn't link with people who futures trade. He's a real one and ain't about that fake life. And he especially doesn't click with locomotive engineers who disregard 49 CFR 222.21. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and this is a picture of me, so when I post on Main, you aren't like, who the is this guy? Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 56. Nobody. Guy in 2014 who invested his life savings in toothpaste microbeads instead of Australian jumping spiders. Grim realization. Toothpaste microbeads are tiny pieces of plastic found in the cool and colorful toothpaste that my parents wouldn't let me have as a kid. They were added to toothpaste for their quote-unquote abrasive qualities, but they may also have made toothpaste sell better. Funnily enough, it turns out adding tiny bits of plastic to stuff you put in your mouth and run down the drain that can absorb persistent organic pollutants is bad for you and the environment. In 2012, mega company Unilever announced that they would be phasing out plastic microbeads from their products. By 2015, the Microbead Free Waters Act was signed into law in the US. Basically, any investment, including starting an Australian jumping spider shop, would be more lucrative. There is an active jumping spider enthusiast community, and as far as spiders go, jumping spiders are some of the cutest. The little and giant barca jumping spiders are native to Australia, and you can buy one for $30 or less if you live there. If you're just starting out your business, all you need to do is start indiscriminately peeling back eucalyptus bark and you'll eventually find some for your farm. Very low overhead. This is card number 7 from the Batman Black Bat 1966 print run and was painted by Norman Saunders, a prolific commercial artist who painted tons of pulp covers, magazine covers, comic book covers, trading cards, you name it. Well, with Topps, where this trading card was printed, he painted the characters on wacky packages alongside 1982 Playboy Editorial Award winner and 1992 Pulitzer Prize winner Art Spiegelman. This meme's a bit of a non sequitur, but I'm sure Batman can make his money back. Let me know in the comments what he should use all his microbeads for, and remember to keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know what meme you'd like me to cover next. Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 57, Broski's in the Zone. This is Broski from the 2007 viral video, My New Haircut, where an unlikable Jersey guy with a new haircut goes on a testosterone-fueled tour of brocore hangout zones, such as the bar, the gym, and the mirror in his bedroom, all while the instrumental to Sunglasses at Night by Corey Hart plays. In the scene this is taken from, Broski walks into a gym with an entire case of water and a tub of protein powder. Refusing to check in at the front desk, all he says before continuing to the gym is, "Not now, chief, I'm in the zone." And here, he is in the zone from the now universally acclaimed 1979 sci-fi movie Stalker, directed by Ingmar Bergman's favorite director, Andrei Tarkovsky. One guide, the Stalker, and 2 men seemingly aimlessly make their way into the zone, an area of Earth laid ruin after an extraterrestrial event. Their goal is to reach a room in the zone that can cause people's innermost desires to come true. I won't spoil the rest of the film, but it's a beautiful movie filled with many interesting and important themes relating to the quote-unquote human condition. It really can't get any more different than My New Haircut's vibe. But say what you will about Broski, he wears his heart on his sleeve, and I know exactly what he'd wish for if he were in that room. Some As always, keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know what meme you'd like me to cover next. Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 58, Golden Plates Think He's Slick, huh? We know that's you in a wig, son. This meme alleges that the golden plates purportedly uncovered by Joseph Smith Jr. with guidance from the angel Moroni made their way onto the Voyager 1 space probe by way of the lost ancestor of Joseph Smith, astronomer and Voyager 1 Golden Record project leader Carl Sagan. And that we all know. Joseph Smith Jr. lived during the Second Great Awakening within the burned-over district in western upstate New York. This area at this time, called that due to the religious fervor spreading like wildfire in the early 1800s, was known for its religious revivals that ended up creating several new religious branches. As such, Smith and his family were practitioners of folk magic and claimed to have visions from angels. He, with the help of a few others, created a story about finding a lost sacred text known as the Golden Plates on a hill, which he then translated using his seer stone, the same stone that he used for his mostly unsuccessful treasure hunting as a teenager. These texts, translated from a language he made up called Reformed Egyptian, make up the Book of Mormon, an epic, totally inaccurate tale of a pre-Columbian America. Smith famously practiced polygamy and had many wives ages 14 to 78. His family tree is complex, but not as juicy as one might think. The only proven children of Joseph were from his first wife, Emma. Brigham Young, the second president president of the Church of the Latter-day Saints. The name of Smith's religion, on the other hand, had over 50 children and 50 wives. Had Smith died at age 38 from an angry mob, maybe he would have had more children, and maybe he would have become president of the United States. Instead, he became the first candidate to be assassinated. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints also famously sends missionaries all over the world to proselytize on behalf of the religion, so it's not an unreasonable assumption, in the case of humor, to assume that Smith could have a long descendant dedicated to spreading the Book of Mormon to other planets beyond our own. In fact, this gag may be seen as a comical, logical conclusion to the exceptionalist entitlement some members of the church have about their religion, as some within the church credit scientific advancement, the end of slavery, and other pat-on-the-back worthy things to Mormonism. The Smith family lived in Lebanon, New Hampshire for a couple of years. There, Joe Jr. developed hematogenous osteomyelitis, a bone infection. The site where he was treated by a doctor, the rented house the Smith family was staying at, is now the site of a combination Taco Bell and KFC. Interestingly, when I went to Cumorah to do research for this video, they gave me a passport to stamp the historical Joseph Smith landmarks I'd been to, but the historic combination Taco Bell and KFC was not on there, but I went there anyway. I didn't have time to eat at the restaurant, but Taco Bell, if you're listening, please sponsor me. Those watching, please tag Taco Bell in the comments and inform them that sponsoring me will cultivate good luck. As always, think outside the bun, indulge your cravings, and let me know which menu item you'd like me to order next. Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 59. Hva gjør vi med hageavfallet? Noe må skje. This meme is in Norwegian and roughly translates to, what do we do with the yard waste? Something must be done. While many people all over the world have wondered about this after tearing out shrubs, a tree, or some other woody thing from their property, it has me wondering, what is the process of yard waste eradication in and about the Norway capital city of Oslo? And if it's kind of expensive and a hassle, is it really so wrong to just throw it in the regular trash? And is it time for me to put my phone down and sleep? Let's find out the answers together. The outskirts of Oslo have an optional yard waste pickup subscription that allows for 7 pickups per season, May to October. However, the pile in this meme is much larger than what's allowed in their yard waste pickup subscription. This pile would have to be dropped off at the Haraldrud collection point. Estimating the volume of this yard waste at 10 feet by 10 feet by 7 feet, or roughly 20 cubic meters, at 1875 kroner per cubic meter, this would cost about $3,600 US dollars. But if it were properly sorted with the larger pieces removed so that branch diameters didn't exceed 15 centimeters, that rate dramatically falls to 285 kroner per cubic meter, or around 550 US dollars. In this case, it might be worth paying for the seasonal subscription with the largest available size bins for $200 and taking the rest that won't fit to the drop site at the end of the year. As evidenced by these costs, it's clear that yard waste disposal is a big, costly issue many people choose to ignore and instead dump somewhere on their own property out of sight. This option is also secretly the best option because while initially aesthetically unsumptuous, these brush piles can be cover for all sorts of animals, including chipmunks, salamanders, foxes, hawks, and more. The something that must be done is actually nothing. The right answer is to just leave the brush pile where it is, if that's possible. As to if it's okay to throw yard waste into the trash, well, it's illegal in many places because it takes up a bunch of space in landfills and is easier to simply compost. We don't need our landfills unnecessarily bloated when we could get some wood chips or nourishing dirt out of it, as many cities mix yard waste with food scrap compost. And don't put your phone down, keep endlessly scrolling until your brain composts into moist mush, fertile and well suited for growing heirloom tomatoes. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know what meme you'd like me to cover next. Esoteric Meme Breakdown, episode 60, The Myth of Consensual Jewels. I consent, I don't! Carousels and coasters made this video possible. Follow for more in-depth information about jewel-encrusted lions and more. M.D. Borelli emigrated to the United States alone from a small town about 10 miles north of Naples, Italy, arriving March 3, 1907 to Ellis Island. He ended up living with his cousin Joseph in Cliffside Park, New Jersey, near Little Coney Island, where he got his first job. He worked under Carousel King Frederick Dole until Dole's death in 1912, where he began working with Dole's wife, Elizabeth, operating 2 carousels and building structural parts of carousels to sell to others. Prior to Borelli's arrival to the United States, Charles Carmel had already moved from Russia in 1883 and established himself as an expert wood carver, making figures for Charles Louf's carousels before going his own way, also selling his carvings to Coney Island mogul William F. Mangles. Obviously, his carvings are beautiful. As Borelli and Elizabeth's business didn't carve the horses, but manufactured other parts, they would buy carvings directly from carvers or buy from used parted out carousels. From what evidence we have, seemed to really like putting boatloads of decorative jewels on the carvings he would buy. Placement of these jewels ranged from tasteful to, well, untastefully excessive. This distasteful gaudiness didn't sit well with Carmel, as the amount of jeweling was way beyond his artistic vision as the original carver of the pieces. However, people, including William F. Mangles, who bought the carvings from Carmel, liked them, and so that was that. I'll leave the topic of whether Borelli's jewel-encrusted obsession is as egregious as modern-day modification to things like vehicles, paintings, and music, but I will say that once an artist publicly publishes their work, relinquishing ownership of their art, they also relinquish its meaning and narrative, leaving the work open to, at times, bad interpretation and customization. Regardless, these jewels are oddly fascinating and alluring, making me want to use my 5-cent per week allowance to ride one of these things until they kick me off for horseplay. Once again, thank you to Carousel and Coasters, and thank you to William Benjamin and Barbara Williams for the important research. Let me know in the comments if you think Borelli's jewels were a one-trick pony. Keep an open mind, indulge your curiosity, and let me know what horse you'd like me to ride next.